We are live inside the EP Official Election Center, and it's finally here, Election Night 2028. Vice President J.D. Vance is looking to carry the Republican banner into a third straight term in the Trump era. Standing in his way, New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, aiming to chart a progressive course for the country's future. This campaign continues a defining pattern of the polarized American era. For the 11th straight election, we are headed for a single-digit popular vote margin, as both parties remain deeply entrenched in their columns, and the battlefield narrows to just a handful of swing states. The final national polling average shows the vice president at 48% and the congresswoman at 46%, a 2-point edge for the Republican. But in the states that matter most, it's Vance with the advantage. He leads in every core battleground, with margins ranging from less than a single point in Georgia and Michigan to as much as 3.5 in Arizona. From coast to coast, this is the moment. Welcome to Election Night 2028. The race for 270 starts right now. We've reached our first major poll closing of the night. The clock is just a few moments from striking 7 p.m. here on the East Coast, where we will receive the first results of the 2028 presidential race from 6 states totaling 60 electoral votes. We're anxiously awaiting the first returns from the battleground state of Georgia, where early results could provide us with our first hint as to where the election is headed tonight. All right, we have our first projections of the night. EP Official now projects that Republican nominee J.D. Vance will carry the state of Indiana. Vance wins the Hoosier state and its 11 electoral votes. In South Carolina, Vance racks up another early win, securing 9 more electoral votes from the Palmetto State. And in Kentucky, no surprise here, Vance also takes the reliably red bluegrass state and its 8 electoral votes. On the Democratic side, we have our first projection as well. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has carried the state of Vermont. That's 3 electoral votes going to the New York Congresswoman. Now, a couple key battlegrounds still too early to call. Georgia, 16 electoral votes up for grabs in one of the most fiercely contested states of the last decade. It returned to the Republican column for Trump in 2024 and remains crucial to the GOP path tonight. Results are expected to come in quickly, offering an early indication of how the evening might unfold. A loss here for Vance would likely signal a strong night for Democrats elsewhere. As for the Commonwealth of Virginia, 13 electoral votes. It's consistently leaned blue in recent years, but it's close enough tonight that we can't call it just yet. So here's where things stand in the Electoral College. J.D. Vance has 28 electoral votes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with 3. 270, of course, is the number to win, and most of the map is still wide open. Most polling stations are still open across the country, with voters casting ballots coast to coast. We'll have more results and projections coming up right after this break. We're approaching another critical round of poll closings in the Vance versus AOC presidential race, just moments away now here at 7:30 p.m. on the East Coast. That's when polls will close in the battlegrounds of North Carolina and Ohio, as well as the state of West Virginia. Together, these 3 states account for 38 of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House. We have an EP official projection in West Virginia. J.D. Vance will carry the state and its 4 electoral votes. In North Carolina, 16 electoral votes. It's too early to call. Long one of the nation's most competitive battlegrounds, Democrats see opportunity here with demographic change and steady gains in urban and suburban areas. for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's a test of her reach with suburban voters and whether that offsets turnout concerns elsewhere. Ohio, with 17 electoral votes, is also too early. Once a bellwether, it's shifted Republican in recent years, but Democrats hope midterm trends and a changing electorate could put it back in play, and no Republican has ever won the presidency without Ohio. Let's pull up the Electoral College map as it stands. The 4 electoral votes from West Virginia bring J.D. Vance to 32, while Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez holds at 3. Georgia and Virginia are still too close to call, and now they're joined by Ohio and North Carolina. Let's get a key race alert out on all 4 right now. Precincts are about to close in 16 states and the District of Columbia. This is the biggest round of poll closings tonight, with a whopping 172 electoral votes at stake, almost a third of the total up for grabs in the next hour, including the absolutely pivotal battleground of Pennsylvania. We've got a whole lot of projections to make right now. Let's bring you some new projections at the top of the hour, starting in Massachusetts, where EP Official can project that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will carry the deep blue Bay state. She secures all 11 of its electoral votes. Ocasio-Cortez also wins in Maryland. Another 10 electoral votes go into the Democratic column from this longtime stronghold. In Connecticut, EP can project a win for Ocasio-Cortez as well. 7 electoral votes added to her total. And in Rhode Island, 4 more electoral votes go to the New York Congresswoman. Ocasio-Cortez also carries Delaware, 3 electoral votes there, and as expected, the District of Columbia, where all 3 of its votes are projected to go blue. We can also project that Ocasio-Cortez will win Maine's 1st congressional district, traditionally the more Democratic half of the state. However, Maine's other 3 electoral votes, 2 from the statewide total and 1 from the more conservative 2nd district, remain too early to call. Now on the Republican side, EP Official can project that J.D. Vance will win the state of Florida, securing all 30 of its electoral votes. We've been tracking results from across the state for the past hour, and with polls now closed in the Panhandle, we can make this call as expected. Florida has seen one of the sharpest rightward shifts in the nation since 2016, and tonight marks a 2nd consecutive double-digit GOP win here. Vance is also projected to win in Tennessee, 11 more electoral votes from the volunteer state. In Missouri, he adds another 10 electoral votes to his tally. And in Alabama, EP can project that Vance will win the state and its 9 electoral votes. He also carries Oklahoma, adding 7 electoral votes as the state extends its Republican streak to 15 consecutive presidential elections, tying an all-time record. And finally, in Mississippi, 6 more electoral votes for J.D. Vance as he wins decisively in the deep red South. Turning now to the races that are still too early to call, Pennsylvania, 19 electoral votes, remains one of the most fiercely contested states in the country, and once again it may prove decisive in the race for the White House. No surprise that it's too early to call at this hour. Illinois, also with 19 electoral votes, is too early to call as well. Once considered safely Democratic, its margins have narrowed in recent years, and it's shaping up as a closer fight than Democrats once expected. New Jersey is also too early to call. Once a Democratic bedrock, the Garden State shifted sharply right in 2024, and the question tonight is whether Vance can build on that momentum or Ocasio-Cortez can begin to claw it back. In New Hampshire, 4 electoral votes, a good portion of the vote is already in, but it remains too early to call. Sticking in New England, the statewide race in Maine is also too early to call. Again, Ocasio-Cortez has been projected to win the 1st congressional district, but the statewide total and the more rural 2nd district remain outstanding. Out west, Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, centered around Omaha, is also too close to call. This urban battleground has leaned blue in recent cycles, but tonight it's a nail-biter, so let's take a step back and assess where things stand in the race to 270 electoral votes. J.D. Vance currently leads with 105 electoral votes, while Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has secured 42. At this hour, 9 states remain too close to call, shaded in white on your screen, and many of the biggest prizes still lie ahead in states where polls have not yet closed, shown here in gray. Among them, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona, all scheduled to close at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Election Pulse can now project that J.D. Vance will win his home state of Ohio. With 17 electoral votes, the Buckeye State has become a cornerstone of the modern Republican coalition, and tonight Vance secures it decisively on his way forward. He takes Ohio with 55% of the vote to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's 42%, a margin of just over 12 points. It's a commanding victory that reinforces how firmly Ohio has settled into red territory, even as neighboring Rust Belt states remain fiercely contested. We also have a projection in Illinois. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will carry the land of Lincoln and its 19 electoral votes. Ocasio-Cortez wins Illinois with 53% of the vote to J.D. Vance's 44%, a margin of about 8.5 points. Democrats no longer post the towering margins here they once did, but Illinois remains a reliable anchor in the blue column of the Midwest. So with those calls, the updated Electoral College count stands at 122 for J.D. Vance and 61 for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Ahead, some of the biggest prizes on the map remain too close to call, including Pennsylvania and Georgia. These are the races that will define the night and likely determine the next president of the United States. Stay with us, there's much more to come. It's 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and polls have just closed in the state of Arkansas, and we've got an EP official projection coming in right now. J.D. Vance is the projected winner in Arkansas, carrying its 6 electoral votes. Arkansas has voted Republican in every presidential election since 1996, and tonight is no different. With those 6 additional votes, the vice president's total climbs to 128 in the race to 270 electoral votes, while AOC remains at 61. We've got a key race alert coming up right now. Election Pulse can now project that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will win the Commonwealth of Virginia. With 13 electoral votes, this state has been a cornerstone of Democratic presidential coalitions for over a decade, and tonight it stays blue. Ocasio-Cortez takes Virginia with 51.2% of the vote to J.D. Vance's 46.5%, a margin of about 4.7 points. That's narrower than Democrats' margins here in recent cycles, but it still reflects their enduring strength in the suburbs and the fast-growing northern part of the state. Now, the updated Electoral College count stands at 128 to 74 in favor of the vice president. Stay with us, we're just getting started. Voting is coming to a close in 14 states as we approach the second biggest wave of results here at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. A massive 156 electoral votes are up for grabs, with several key battleground states in focus, ranging from Arizona in the Southwest to Michigan and Wisconsin in the Midwest. And EP has a couple of projections to make right now. EP official can now project that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will carry her home state of New York, securing its 28 electoral votes. After shifting further to the right than any other state between 2020 and 2024, the Empire State nonetheless stays in the Democratic column tonight, delivering a large electoral prize for the New York native. We can also project that Ocasio-Cortez will carry the state of Colorado. With 10 electoral votes, Colorado stays blue for the 6th consecutive presidential election. While many solidly Democratic states trended rightward in recent years, Colorado has continued to slide leftward. And tonight's results further cement its status as a Democratic stronghold. Now to several key projections for J.D. Vance. Starting with a big one, EP official can project that Vance will carry the state of Texas and its 40 electoral votes. Polls closed in most of the state an hour ago, and now, with the vast majority of precincts reporting, we can call it J.D. Vance wins Texas, delivering the single largest prize of the night so far to the Republican ticket. EP can also project Vance will carry Louisiana, adding 8 electoral votes to his total. In Kansas, the Sunflower State, Vance picks up 6 more. Next is Iowa, not far removed from representing a core part of the Barack Obama coalition. The Hawkeye state is on track to vote Republican by a comfortable margin for a 4th consecutive cycle. Turning to Nebraska, Vance is projected to win the statewide vote and the deep red 3rd congressional district, securing 3 of Nebraska's 5 electoral votes. The 1st and 2nd districts remain too close to call at this hour. And in the Dakotas, both North and South Dakota are being projected for Vance with 3 electoral votes apiece. And in Wyoming, the nation's least populous state, Vance picks up another 3 electoral votes. Now to a slate of key states where EP official is not yet able to make a projection. In Michigan, a critical 15 electoral votes and a top target for Ocasio-Cortez, it remains too early to call. The second closest state in 2024 is again expected to be a tipping point, and Ocasio-Cortez spent the final days of the campaign here, underscoring its importance to her path. Arizona is also too close to call. After narrowly backing Biden in 2020, it snapped back hard to Trump in 2024. Tonight's race is razor tight again, with Maricopa County's vote expected later this hour, numbers that could set the tone for the night. In Minnesota, the nation's longest-running Democratic streak is on the line. Kamala Harris won it by just 4 points in 2024, and Ocasio-Cortez is banking on younger and progressive voters to help Democrats extend that run. Next door in Wisconsin, with 10 electoral votes, the story is much the same. It's been among the closest states in America for 2 decades, with each of the last 3 presidential contests here decided by less than a point. And finally, New Mexico, 5 electoral votes, remains too early to call. Democrats have carried it since 2008, but margins have been tightening. Harris won here by just 6 points in 2024, the narrowest Democratic victory in 2 decades. J.D. Vance has extended his lead to exactly 200 electoral votes, 70 short of the 270 needed to win the presidency. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stands at 112. 9 Western states still have polls open, including California, the biggest Democratic prize on the map, with a whopping 54 electoral votes. Alright, we have another projection coming in, this time from the Granite State. EP can project that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will win New Hampshire, securing its 4 electoral votes. New Hampshire has been decided by single digits in 9 straight presidential elections, and that streak continues tonight. Ocasio-Cortez edges out J.D. Vance 49.8% to 47.8%, a raw margin of just over 17,000 votes. It's a narrow but important pickup for the Democrat, keeping New England firmly in her column. And with it, Ocasio-Cortez adds 4 electoral votes to her tally, bringing her to 116. J.D. Vance remains ahead with 200. We're getting the first results out of several battlegrounds where the polls just closed. Let's take a look. EP official can now project that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will carry the state of New Jersey, delivering its 14 electoral votes to the Democratic column. This marks an important hold for the Ocasio-Cortez campaign, but it's also a reminder that New Jersey isn't quite the deep blue bastion it once was. Still, Ocasio-Cortez halts the GOP's recent momentum here, winning with 52.0% to J.D. Vance's 45.8%. That's a margin of about 300,000 votes, solid enough to keep the Garden State in Democratic hands. And with that, let's check in on the updated Electoral College map. Ocasio-Cortez now climbs to 130 electoral votes, while J.D. Vance maintains his lead with 200. But we are now entering the heart of the battleground phase. Votes are pouring in from Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada, and those results will shape the rest of the night. Stay with us. That's right, EP official can now project that J.D. Vance will carry the state of North Carolina, a pivotal battleground and a major moment in tonight's race. It's the first true battleground projected for either candidate, and it's a significant win for Vance, pushing him another step closer to the 270 electoral votes needed to clinch the presidency. Let's look at the final numbers. Vance wins with 50.1% of the vote to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's 48.0%, a margin of about 126,000 votes. This marks the 6th straight presidential race in which North Carolina has been decided by fewer than 4 points, reinforcing its status as one of the nation's most perennially close contests. With this result, Vance climbs to 216 electoral votes. For Ocasio-Cortez, the path now runs squarely through the Rust Belt. Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin remain outstanding, and together they could decide the presidency. Early returns show her holding an edge in Michigan, while the margins in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania continue to tighten as more Democratic strongholds report in. The battleground map is starting to take shape, and the stakes could not be higher. We're moments away from another significant round of poll closings, as voting is about to come to an end in 3 states here at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, including the key battleground of Nevada. A total of 16 electoral votes are on the line right now. EP official can project that J.D. Vance will win the state of Utah, locking in its 6 electoral votes. That result comes as no surprise, and neither does this. Vance is also projected to carry Montana, adding another 4 electoral votes as the state once again stays firmly in the Republican column. But all eyes are on Nevada. With 6 crucial electoral votes at stake, it is still too close to call. Donald Trump flipped Nevada red in 2024 for the first time in 2 decades, though only by the slimmest of margins. With the latest calls in Utah and Montana, J.D. Vance has expanded his lead. He now stands at 226 electoral votes, while Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has 137. And with that, we've got a key race alert coming up right now. We've got a big one. EP official can now project that J.D. Vance will carry the state of Georgia, the second major battleground off the board tonight, with 16 electoral votes staying in the Republican column. It's another razor-thin result, Vance at 49.9% to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's 48.3%, a margin of just over 88,000 votes. Georgia was one of the few southern states where Democrats had genuine optimism, but once again, Republicans hold the line, and this time it's Vance who delivers. We also have a projection from Maine's 2nd congressional district. J.D. Vance is the winner. He takes the rural, more conservative half of the state with 53.2% to Ocasio-Cortez's 43.2%, marking the GOP's 3rd consecutive victory in this closely watched seat. We're still awaiting a call in the statewide Maine race, where Ocasio-Cortez has already secured the 1st district. But the 2nd district win gives Republicans a valuable extra vote. And with Georgia locked down, J.D. Vance now climbs to 243 electoral votes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez remains at 137, and now the math shifts. With Georgia off the board, Ocasio-Cortez has little margin for error. Barring surprises in Nevada or Arizona, she'll likely need to sweep the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin to reach 270. We're heading into a critical stretch. Let's get a key race alert now. polls are about to close in 4 states out west, including key Democratic strongholds down the Pacific Coast: Washington, Oregon, and California. There are 78 electoral votes at stake as we approach 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Let's take a look. The biggest prize of the night is California with its massive 54 electoral votes, and EP can project that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will carry the state of California. Long a Democratic stronghold, the Golden State once again delivers a huge boost to the Democratic ticket. Moving up the Pacific Coast, EP can also project that Ocasio-Cortez will win the state of Washington, securing another 12 electoral votes, and in Oregon, she is the projected winner of 8 more. That keeps the Democratic blue wall along the West Coast intact for a 9th consecutive presidential election. We do have one projection on the Republican side as well. EP can project that J.D. Vance will carry the state of Idaho, adding 4 electoral votes from this deeply Republican stronghold. Now let's take a look at the updated Electoral College map. With the West Coast now in the Democratic column, Ocasio-Cortez surges to 204 electoral votes. Vance maintains the lead with 247. EP can now project that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will carry the state of New Mexico. Ocasio-Cortez wins in the Land of Enchantment, securing its 5 electoral votes. With 51% to J.D. Vance's 46.1%, the result reflects recent trends. New Mexico has narrowed in recent years, but it remains reliably Democratic tonight. It's a key hold for the Ocasio-Cortez campaign, though not one that was ever considered a top GOP target. We also have a projection in Nebraska's 1st congressional district. EP official can project that J.D. Vance will carry the district, adding 1 more electoral vote to his total. Vance has already been projected to win Nebraska's statewide tally and the deep red 3rd district. It's worth noting Nebraska's 1st district was the only constituency in the country to swing toward Democrats between 2020 and 2024. With these latest projections, here's where things stand on the Electoral College map. J.D. Vance at 248, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at 209. As always, 270 is the number to watch. We'll be right back with more key battleground updates. EP can now project that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has carried the state of Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, and its 10 electoral votes remains in the Democratic column tonight. Ocasio-Cortez wins with 50.5% to J.D. Vance's 46.4%, a margin of about 138,000 votes. That extends Minnesota's record streak of voting Democratic in presidential elections to 14 consecutive cycles. So where do things stand? J.D. Vance now holds 248 electoral votes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez climbs to 219. Only 8 states remain uncalled: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, and the statewide race in Maine, along with Alaska and Hawaii still outstanding. clock strikes midnight on the East Coast, and with that, polls have now closed in Alaska and Hawaii. While we don't expect results out of Alaska for at least a couple more hours, we do have a projection to make in Hawaii right now. EP can project that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will carry the Aloha State, securing its 4 electoral votes. No surprise here, Hawaii once again stays in the Democratic column. As for Alaska, the race there is too early to call. The state has voted Democratic only once in its history, but it has gradually edged closer to the center over the past 2 decades. We'll wait on the first wave of returns before making any projections. With Hawaii now in the Democratic column, Ocasio-Cortez rises to 223 electoral votes. J.D. Vance holds at 248. The night is far from over, and the road to 270 runs straight through the final battlegrounds still hanging in the balance. Much more to come. EP official can now project that Vice President J.D. Vance has won the state of Pennsylvania, holding the Keystone State's 19 electoral votes and delivering Republicans another major victory in the heart of the Rust Belt. Vance is projected to finish with 50.0% of the votes to Ocasio-Cortez's 48.0%, a margin of about 143,000 votes. It's the second consecutive Republican win in Pennsylvania, a feat not seen since the Reagan years. We also have a projection in Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, and it goes to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Democrats once again hold this Omaha-based district, securing 1 electoral vote out of deep red Nebraska for the 3rd straight presidential contest. With these latest calls, J.D. Vance climbs to 267 electoral votes, just 3 shy of the 270 needed to win the presidency. Ocasio-Cortez stands at 224. The path forward is narrowing, with Pennsylvania now red. Ocasio-Cortez's hopes rest squarely on flipping multiple remaining battlegrounds. Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona, each still too close to call. Here it is, after countless hours of vote counting, precincts reporting from coast to coast, and battlegrounds breaking late into the night, EP official can now project that J.D. Vance has been elected the 48th President of the United States. It marks a historic moment, a political newcomer turned vice president, now elected commander-in-chief just 5 years after first entering elected office. This projection comes as EP can now call the state of Alaska for J.D. Vance. With its 3 electoral votes, the vice president lands right at the 270 vote threshold needed to secure the presidency. Looking at the final projected result in Alaska, Vance leads Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez by about 15 points, a decisive showing in the last frontier that delivers the final push over the finish line. As we enter the early morning hours of Wednesday, November the 6th, just 5 states remain unprojected: Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, and the statewide result in Maine. Those calls may still take hours, or even into the day, to settle, but the headline is clear. J.D. Vance has been elected the 48th President of the United States, a defining night for the Republican Party, and a new chapter in American political history. EP official can now project that President-elect J.D. Vance will carry the state of Wisconsin, securing the Badger State's 10 electoral votes for the Republicans. Wisconsin once again lived up to its reputation as one of the most fiercely contested battlegrounds. Tonight, Vance edges it out by just over a point, 49.5% to 48.4%, a slim but decisive win in a state that has flipped back and forth for nearly a decade. And with this call, Vance climbs to 280 electoral votes, surpassing the threshold and adding yet another Rust Belt state to his column. Wisconsin, along with Pennsylvania and Michigan, has formed the core of recent presidential coalitions, swinging sharply across party lines in each of the past 4 elections. This may be where the night winds down. Michigan's count has slowed, and we're still waiting for significant vote drops out of Arizona and Nevada. But the headline is already clear. J.D. Vance not only crossed 270, he is expanding his margin in the states that decided this race. It's been a long and defining night in American politics. We'll be back in the morning with final calls, deeper analysis, and a look at what this new political era means moving forward. Alright, we can now make 2 major projections. First, EP official can project that J.D. Vance has carried the state of Michigan, despite a late surge from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in Detroit and other Democratic strongholds. It wasn't enough to overcome Vance's edge across much of the rest of the state. When all the votes are tallied, Vance secures Michigan's 15 electoral votes by less than a point, 49.4% to 48.6%, with a raw margin of just over 46,000 votes. We can also now project the outcome in Maine's statewide race. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez holds on to win there, claiming the 2 at-large electoral votes along with the 1st district, while J.D. Vance carries the 2nd. That gives Ocasio-Cortez 3 of Maine's 4 total votes, with her projected statewide margin landing at 51.2% to 45.9%. And with these calls, J.D. Vance completes the sweep of the Rust Belt trio. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, that proved decisive in this election. Ocasio-Cortez, meanwhile, adds Maine's at-large votes to her tally, but falls short in the battlegrounds that mattered most. With these latest results, J.D. Vance stands at 295 electoral votes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez now sits at 226. EP can now project that J.D. Vance will carry the state of Arizona, locking in its 11 electoral votes. The president-elect defeats Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez here by more than 177,000 votes, a margin of just under 5 points, with a projected final share of 51.2% to 46.3%. Arizona has now voted Republican in back-to-back elections after flipping red in 2024, and tonight, Vance once again holds the line in this pivotal Sun Belt battleground. With this win, Vance climbs to 306 electoral votes. Only Nevada remains uncalled, where the race is still too close to call as we wait for additional vote drops. We We can now make the final call of the night. EP Official can project that President-elect J.D. Vance will carry the state of Nevada, securing its 6 electoral votes. After Donald Trump flipped the state in 2024, Vance manages to hold it for Republicans tonight by just over 51,000 votes. The final projection, 50.2% to 46.9%. And with Nevada in the Republican column, Vance finishes at 312 electoral votes to Ocasio-Cortez's 226. That seals the 2028 map and concludes a remarkable election night that reshaped the political landscape yet again. And that does it for this 2028 election night prediction. I truly hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to disagree, share your thoughts, or leave any comments, questions, or feedback down below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and check out more election coverage and predictions right here. Huge shout out to my channel members, listed in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, I'll see you next time. EP out.